everyone, welcome back to Great Sports Debates. We had another great week. I know it feels like a broken record, but 5-0 so far on our bets that we gave you. About to be 6-0 after the Monday night game is done. But let's get it going. Starting at number 32 in the power rankings this week, we have the same old Carolina Panthers. Now, they made a game out of it and played Tampa Bay pretty tight. They actually even covered, which they haven't done too often, but did so this week. But bottom line is they're 1-11 and going nowhere fast. In the same tier with them, at 31 is the New England Patriots, whose dreadful offense put up 0 points. I know it was bad weather, but still, no points again. Also 2-10 on the season. Not looking good for them. Now, the next tier, I don't want to say not much better because those two teams are pretty horrible. But at 30, I'm dropping the Commanders down. I mean, they're just getting blown out week after week after week. I wanted them kind of at the top of this bad teams tier. I've said several times, I like some of their pieces. They haven't been consistent, but at some point they just keep getting their heads kicked in, especially recently. I don't know if the team's given up or what the story is, but they're the 30th ranked team right now. Okay, up next at number 29, we have the New York Football Giants. And I want to say this is tied for as high as they've been all year. We'll thank that to a bye that they didn't do anything disgusting this week. At 28, we got the New York Jets. They're like at their fourth quarterback now. Just no matter who you put in there, they're not going to have a lot of time. And you already had Aaron Rodgers on the payroll with Zach Wilson, so having your third and fourth quarterback shouldn't be a priority. They got down to Trevor Siemian, and like I said, it didn't really matter. Their offense couldn't do anything all day. I think they managed like 2 field goals, which is kind of the Jets standard. I mean, if you look at the picks, I typically never have them above 10 points. So, pro tip, look for Jets and look for the under. At number 27, we got the Arizona Cardinals. They got another win with Kyler Murray at the helm. And I know they're 3-10 on the year, but they've had a couple of wins in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and they seem to run the ball pretty well. Next up, we have at number 26, the Chicago Bears. Again, when you're at the basement, when you're these bottom level teams, sometimes you just move up by not playing because the other teams are so bad. But they're 4-8 on the air, and like I said last week, I think this is a team that can be one of the best of the bad teams if they continue to feature Justin Fields running the ball first to kind of open up the offense. All right, at 25, we got Tennessee. They did lose at the Colts, but they played them pretty well, actually. Maybe Tennessee will hold that title of the best bad team at 4-8. At 24, we got the Tampa Bay Bucks, and they just have not had a whole lot of offense. I mean, they did beat the lowly Carolina Panthers, but they didn't even cover, and it was a close game. And I wanted to move them down, but you see the teams that are below them, right? I mean, they're pretty bad. So they're 5-7, and as bad as Tampa Bay is, they're lucky that they're in a really bad division where they're really only 1 game out of the division lead. At 23 is the Saints. They showed well. Their offense showed some glimpses of some of what I was expecting this year. Didn't expect them to be a powerhouse, but I expected them to be able to make some plays. And they definitely made the Lions sweat after jumping out to a 21-0 lead. At number 22, we got the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, again, I'm doing this power ranking before I see the Bengals play this week, but I have seen them play without Joe Burrow, and it's been pretty bad. So we have the Bengals coming in at 22. Next up at 21, we got the Raiders. Again, same story. Bad team on a bye. In this case, they're sticking right where they are. At 20 is the Chargers. I know it's weird that they moved down a little bit, even though they won the game. But, you know, their offense isn't impressive. They played like a really bad team that's almost not an NFL team in the Patriots. But give them the credit. It was bad weather, and they did win the game. At 19, we got the Packers. I really wanted to see them play another game to see if they're on a hot streak, if they're for real. Just kind of left them where they're at. I don't see a whole lot of ways that they beat Kansas City. So we'll just leave them at 20 for now and see how that game turns out. At 18, we have the Seattle Seahawks. This team is 6-6, but they just haven't looked good lately. Now, granted, they've played some tough teams. You know, when you're playing Dallas and San Francisco, you know, the expectation is that you're probably not going to win. But they just haven't looked great in doing so. We'll see if they can bounce back at the late part of their schedule. At number 17, we got the Atlanta Falcons. This is pretty close to about as high as they've been. They got another win today. They're 6-6. They're alone at the top of a very bad division. And I don't know how many divisional games they have left, but they have an opportunity to get into the playoffs. At number 16, we got the Cleveland Browns, who despite their 7-5 record, have come off of at least back-to-back losses. I know they lost to Denver last week. They lost to the Rams, who you guys keep killing me, telling me I have them too high, but, you know, like I said, they're winning and they're doing pretty well when Stafford's upright. But, you know, maybe Flacco's the best answer for the Browns at this point. Their quarterback play's just been bad all the way around. And although he didn't set his feet right on a bad pick, and you know they made some mistakes late in the game that made it seem like a blowout, it was really actually a close game most of the way through. Considering the other options, with Walker and the rookie and options like that, maybe Flacco turns out and can make the Browns the top 10 team, but for right now we got him outside of there at 16. At number 15, just ahead of them, is the Pittsburgh Steelers. You could really do this, either way here. They're both 7-5. I know some people are going to be upset that there's teams with bad records ahead of them, but these teams just do not look good. And Pittsburgh got killed by an Arizona team that a lot of people thought would be the worst team in the league. The Steelers' offense is just atrocious. And it's unrealistic to expect TJ Watt to win every game for them. At number 14 is Minnesota. I don't really see Minnesota as like this top half team, but considering all the other teams we looked at, we got Minnesota in this space. At 13 is the Rams. I know they're sub 500. They beat the Seahawks twice. They just came off of a win against Cleveland. And again, I think this team, despite their record, has the potential to, play in this range and maybe even a little above. At number 12, we got the Denver Broncos. They had their 5-game win streak snapped. We kind of expected that playing a tough Houston team, but they kept it close and were in it all the way to the end. So I still like Denver since they've got on this roll. At number 11, we got the Colts. This was a really tough one. I don't feel like the Colts are this strong of a team, but again, they're 7-5. They're coming off of another win, and they got a good record despite being in a tough division. So it does seem high, but which of these teams below them do you really say for certain, hey, they're way better than the Colts? Let me know in the comment section if I missed something there, because Doesn't feel right having them there, but that's where I have them. Okay. At number 10, again, this is another one that people don't like. I got the Buffalo Bills. I know they're 6-6. I know Josh Allen has single-handedly taken them out of games. But, there's a big separation with the top 9 teams and the rest of the league, in my personal opinion. And I think Buffalo is the team I would trust most of the other teams that aren't in that top 9. So I'm going to have them at number 10 this week. I'm sure they'll disappoint me again. At number 9 is Houston. I really wanted to move them up as they've been winning. They've been proving me right. They've been making all of us money all season long. That's why I said they've been a really undervalued team. People are expecting them to win, 5 or 6 games coming into this year, and they've already exceeded that. CJ Stroud is his truth. We've been talking about Will Anderson, and of course, he comes up big to make us look great with like a billion pressures and a couple of sacks. And then don't even forget, Derek Stingley's been playing well too. So they've been stacking up the talent and doing pretty well, with a number 3 and a number 2 pick this year, number 3 pick the year before. So, yeah, it's great when you have those picks, but you really got to hit them too, and it looks like they have. At number 8 is the Detroit Lions. So this is kind of a tricky spot. They won the game against the Saints. For the 3rd or 4th week in a row, the defense just looked really, really bad. And they're doing everything they can. They got guys like Bruce Irvin that they signed off the street a couple of weeks ago, up from the practice squad and getting some rushes in. Bringing in guys from multiple different places to try to shore up that defense, but there's not going to be any silver bullet solution when you're sitting there trying to get guys off the street. So it's a tough spot. I thought about jumping Houston ahead of them, but not quite so fast. We got to remind ourselves, despite how bad the Lions defense can play, they're still 9-3 in the year, no matter what their schedule is. It'll be interesting to see how they finish up with the last 3 weeks against Minnesota, Dallas, and Minnesota. At number 7 is Jacksonville. We haven't seen their game yet. We expect them to win at Cincinnati. Again, they're kind of in a tough spot. We get them ranked closely with Detroit and Houston, and I think it's going to be hard for them to break in the top 6 teams. At number 6, we got the Baltimore Ravens. They're sitting at 9-3. And they've looked really strong this year. I think as long as they continue to give Lamar run-pass options, he's got better weapons than he's had in a long time. And as always, it just seems like Baltimore always figures out how to get a good defensive player. They always get the great player that falls. A couple years ago is Kyle Hamilton, who people said could go as early as 2 or 3. Trade up, get him at 14. They got the center that was supposed to be by far the best center coming out when they got Linderbaum a couple years ago. So, Baltimore just is a great organization, and they always seem to be in the mix. All right, top 5 here. It's pretty tricky where you want to rack and stack these teams. I'm going Miami at number 5. I thought about maybe moving them up. They had another big, impressive win. They're 9-3. Like I said, some of these teams could really be interchangeable, so just let me know what you think in the comment section below. Okay, at number 4, we're going with the Dallas Cowboys. I know they've been blowing people out too, but honestly, they've got smacked by some of the bigger, better teams, and I just don't see all the things that I'm really impressed with the top 3 teams, which brings us to our top tier, starting at number 3 with the Kansas City Chiefs. I haven't seen their game against Green Bay yet, but, like every week, we expect Kansas City to win. We've talked about their weaknesses at offensive tackle and wide receiver and all the drops they got. But at the end of the day, they got Patrick Mahomes. They got a really good defense. He's got a security blanket with Travis Kelce, and they got a pretty strong interior on their offensive line. They're the defending champs. They were favored in every game this year. It's kind of hard to have them lower than number 3. At 2 is Philly. Despite getting blown out, they're really staying in the same place. I know some people were giving me heat why Philly wasn't number 1 when they were 10-1. Well, I think this week that question was answered. It would be hard to move Philly down. They have a really tough slate of games. You couldn't expect them to win all of them. It's one of the craziest slates I've seen of 6 games that they're most of the way through, playing teams like San Francisco and KC. They played a bunch of good teams. They're bound to lose one, and they lost to the team that we've had at number 1. So remember, if we were just racking and stacking teams by the records, you could just look at the standings. But San Francisco is a special team. They're really strong at all 3 levels across the defense, especially up front and in the linebacking core. Their offensive line is good enough, and they have studs like Trent Williams. Plus, they got a tight end that can actually block in Kittle, who's a playmaker himself, with Ayuk and Debo and all the players that they got on the outside. They got probably the best running back in the game. And Brock Purdy just has to not make mistakes. He gets time. They can run the ball. That opens up the pass. They have so many ways to score. This is a team. They were plus 430. If you didn't jump on it, we said, hey, get Super Bowl odds on. I'm sure the odds are getting even thinner this week. So that's our top 32. Let me know what you think. Not a lot of movement around at this point. I mean, we kind of got it figured out. And if you look at our picks video coming out, we've just been smashing it. So appreciate the support. If you know someone that's looking to get these picks that's really into sports, share this with them. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and let's keep grinding. Thanks a lot.